Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into something really fundamental, something core to how we experience life, really.
Yeah, it's about this distinction that, according to our source today, could unlock a lot about our inner worlds.
Exactly. We're diving into the difference between how we feel and how we think, specifically how we think we feel.
And the basis for this is an essay from 101 essays that will change the way you think. It really zeroes in on this one idea.
Right. So our goal here is to, unpack what this essay is getting at. Why does this difference actually matter?
And maybe explore how just seeing that difference could, well, change how you look at your own experiences day to day.
Okay, so the essay kicks off with a question we probably all blur together. Why do we swap? How do you feel about that? And what do you think about that? Almost interchangeably.
Yeah, it seems natural, right? But the essay argues they're worlds apart. It puts forward this pretty striking idea initially.
Which is?
That actual emotions, the pure feeling, are incredibly simple. Like, surprisingly simple.
Simple how?
Physically simple. The source basically boils it down to just sensations in the body. Things like tightness or maybe openness. That's it.
Just tightness or openness.
Yeah.
That seems too basic for something like grief or joy.
Well, that's the core insight, isn't it? The essay argues that the intensity, the complexity, the things we label as overwhelming joy or crushing sadness, that's not the feeling itself. That's our interpretation. It's the meaning our thoughts layer onto that simple tightness or openness.
Okay, hold on. So the feeling is just like a blip, a physical signal.
Kind of, yeah.
And all the drama, the story, oh no, this means, that's all added by our thinking.
That's the argument the essay puts forward. We essentially construct the complex emotion by assigning meaning based on, past experiences, beliefs, fears.
Wow, okay. If that's true, the implications are pretty huge.
They really are, and the essay explores that. It looks at how this confusion plays out in things like social conditioning,
right,
or why groups can act in certain ways, like mob mentality. And maybe most relevant for many of us, why people feel so stuck in difficult emotions.
Because they're stuck in the thinking about the feeling, not the feeling itself.
Precisely. The source suggests pure physical feelings are meant to be quite fleeting. They signal something, then they pass.
But our thoughts keep looping.
Exactly. It's the cognitive patterns, the stories we repeat, that keep re-triggering the sensation, or maybe prevent us from taking action based on the simple signal.
So it's the narrative around the tightness in your chest, not the tightness itself, that causes the prolonged suffering.
That's the idea. And the essay points out how deep this goes. Our upbringing, culture, family, society, they all teach us how to interpret these sensations.
They give us a script almost. Tightness here means this.
Yeah, exactly, a script. And it creates this whole system of mental reactions, often driven by, ego needs survival, wanting love, fitting in.
And the essay has a term for this layer, right? Mental emotions.
It does, mental emotions. Yeah. And it makes a bold claim. These are the main reason we suffer, much more than just basic instincts.
Okay, can you give an example? The essay had one.
Right, the rejection example.
Yeah.
It's not the quick physical pang when someone rejects you, maybe that tightness again. It's the thoughts about it. See? I knew it. I'm not good enough. Or, this always happens to me.
And those thoughts then become a filter.
Yes. The source says our subconscious then looks for evidence to confirm that thought, that belief.
Oh, wow.
And that repetition, starting from interpreting a simple feeling, locks in a belief. And that belief starts shaping your choices, your life.
This also connects to something else the essay challenges.
Yeah.
This common idea that a good life, a meaningful life, has to be full of intense highs and lows.
Yeah, that we need the epic love story, the dramatic struggle, the overcoming of immense suffering to feel like we've truly lived.
Like we need strong opinions, big emotional reactions to everything just to feel worthwhile.
Right. The source suggests we're kind of conditioned that way. But if those big emotions are mostly these mental emotions, these interpretations,
then maybe a meaningful life doesn't require constant emotional fireworks.
Maybe not. Maybe it's something quieter. Which leads to the practical side.
Okay, yeah. If these intense things are mostly interpretation, how do we, get back to the basic feeling? How do we even notice it under all that thought?
The essay suggests a practice. Next time you feel that intensity, anxiety, anger, whatever you call it, just pause.
Pause and do what?
Scan your body. Yep. Really honestly. Try to find just the physical sensation without the label, without the story.
So ignore the I'm anxious because, and just find Where is it? What does it physically feel like?
Exactly. And the essay is very direct about this. Even a strong gut feeling, that churning. Strip away the narrative. What is it physically?
And the essay says?
It says it's likely just a sensation, maybe a little bit of stress. It emphasizes that's it. That is all. That is all that feeling can do to you.
Just a physical event, not a catastrophe in itself.
Right. It reframes it.
Right.
And it suggests checking back later, an hour later, maybe the next morning.
And what's likely happened?
The physical sensation, probably gone, which underlines its temporary nature, and it's separated from the thought loops that keep feeding it.
So if you just feel it, it passes. If you think about it endlessly, interpret it, catastrophize, that's what makes it stick around and feel huge.
That's the core idea. And it also touches on intuition, those gut feelings.
I just described those.
As the little voice within. Not overwhelming waves, but something much more subtle, gentle signals.
Which fits, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the core feeling is simple, the signal might be quiet, not a giant klaxon.
Yeah. The essay even floats the idea that maybe sometimes we're uncomfortable with just stillness, with the quietness of pure sensation.
So we create the drama, the layers of chaos, as the essay puts it.
Perhaps unconsciously, yeah, as a distraction from that quiet. But noticing the simple feeling can be the way out of that chaos when it gets too much.
This leads into how the essay views the nature of these feelings, beyond just simple or complex. It challenges the whole good versus bad emotion idea.
It really does. It suggests that our internal communication system, even when a feeling signals difficulty, like that tightness saying, something's off here, is fundamentally helpful.
Helpful, even sadness or anger.
The signal itself is presented as gentle, trying to guide you, not attack you. It's not inherently negative, the source argues.
So we don't have a built-in aversion. It's learned. We learn to label sadness as bad and joy as good.
That's the perspective, that the feelings themselves don't feel intrinsically bad, even if our mind wasn't taught they were good. They just are.
Which opens up a pretty radical idea in the essay.
Yeah, this one's quite provocative. The idea that you could potentially enjoy sadness and pain and everything else.
Enjoy pain.
At the appropriate time, to the appropriate extent, not enjoying the reason for the pain, but by allowing the pure physical sensation to just be there.
Without fighting it, without layering on the judgment, this is terrible, I shouldn't feel this.
Exactly. Just observing the sensation itself as part of the spectrum of physical experience, like feeling warmth or cold, not necessarily pleasant, but experienceable without resistance.
That's a significant shift in perspective.
It really is. It moves it from something to escape to something to simply notice.
Okay, so let's tie this back together. The absolute core message from this essay seems to be, it's not just thoughts creating our reality.
No, it's more specific. It's how we use our thoughts to analyze, to dissect, to assign meaning to those basic physical feelings.
That's where the action is, in the interpretation layer.
Yes. Based on all our conditioning, our beliefs, that's how we decide this feeling is good, that situation is bad, this is right, that is wrong.
And the essay strongly argues, none of that is inherent in the feeling itself. Good, bad, right, wrong. Those are all interpretations.
Entirely constructions of thought layered onto the simple sensation.
And the essay wraps us up with that symphony analogy, right?
Yeah, it's a nice one. The final experience, the symphony that feels like your life, isn't just the simple notes, the feelings.
It's the whole arrangement.
It's the whole piece created by how you orchestrate your thoughts, your interpretations, your reactions around those simple notes. And that symphony creates your perception of whether life feels good or bad.
So the big takeaway here, pulling from the source, isn't about trying to eliminate feelings or stop thinking. That's impossible, probably undesirable anyway.
Right. It's about understanding the distinction. Seeing the gap between the simple physical feeling and the complex story we build around it.
And crucially, recognizing that so much of our suffering seems to come from that story, from that interpretation, not necessarily from the initial fleeting sensation.
It shifts your focus, doesn't it? From the feeling itself, which passes, to the thinking about it, which can loop endlessly.
Which leaves us with a final thought to chew on, building on the essay. If most suffering comes from our thoughts about feelings, not the feelings themselves, what could that mean for how you approach difficult times? How might things change if you could just allow the pure physical sensation, that tightness or whatever it is, to just be there for a moment without immediately jumping to interpret what it means?